Showtime.
Live.
Hi, I'm Lauren Abrams, and I get to talk to Jon Patrick Hatcher again, who his episode just launched yesterday. And so you can listen or watch that. Some people watch podcasts, which amazes me always. My son watches sports podcasts, not this one. Um, Yeah, that's for sure. And but very good dear friend of mine called me yesterday and said your podcast is her favorite of all time. I told her we'd be going live today, so maybe she'll tune in. I know, Nancy, that was so
Humbled.
great.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah. So I didn't even pay her to do that. She just called up and said, "This is my favorite. I'm going to have to buy his book." So go ahead and I'll let you introduce yourself and talk about what you do for a minute.
Yeah, so that's humbling. I'm just me, I just talk about my stuff, and it's fun. It's redeeming because for so long I hid so much, I hid who I was. I didn't want to be vulnerable. I wanted to be a man, and I didn't want to have any disorders, or especially of the mental varietal. Um, and so it's nice to be accepted into, everybody's got their stuff. So you find that that's one thing we all have in common is we're all broken. We're all broken in some way. Um, so yeah, I'm a writer. I fell into it. I was a writer by hobby. Probably goes back a couple decades. I always hated corporate life, and yet I landed in it after grad school, and I worked for a big Fortune 500 tech company, and I would make the time go by sending out these mass emails to everyone I knew at work and at other companies that were funny, and just making fun of work and life. And I had this huge subscriber list, and back then people would say, "Oh, you got to write a book," and I was like, "That sounds horrible. I don't want to. Like, why would I do that?" And I just kept writing as a hobby, and then some of my blog pieces got more attention, and that's when things really started to take off. And I decided I might give this book thing a try. I mean, it's just one chapter at a time, right? It's like how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. And if you approach it like I'm writing a book, then no, you'll never do it. But if you approach it like I'm writing a paragraph and then a page and then a chapter, and over time, in a few months, you have a book. So that's kind of what happened. And then I wrote for the teen market first. So I wrote 101 Ways to Conquer Teen Anxiety, which came out in 2016. There's a follow-up called the Teen Anxiety Guidebook that's coming out July 4th of this year. And then a few weeks ago in December, I had Anxiety Hacks for an Uncertain World release, and that's an adult book. It's a supplemental academic book, self-help humor, which is crazy to think, God, I wish I took a psychology class that had a self-help humor book.
Yeah.
So that came out, and now I'm kind of like, what do I do next?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Are you still writing? Well,
I
you
am.
have to be writing. I mean, journaling's part of it, and that turns into books probably,
Yeah, I
articles,
write for
books.
Psychology Today as well. I have a self-help humor column there, and it's the only one on the site. So that's a huge honor, and it's under the name State of Anxiety, and also under my name. Um, when I applied for that, I thought, there's no way. There's no way in hell they're going to consider this. Like, this is a very prestigious 55-year-old, institution of PhDs and PsyDs and MDs. I'm a MA, and I have a sense of humor. This isn't going to go over well. And I pitched them, and they accepted me. And I thought, okay, well, they're never going to publish this first piece that I wrote. And it might have been on relationship OCD. But they did, and they still are. I had
Yeah, your
one.
articles are great.
Oh, thank you so
I read
much.
them, yeah.
I wrote one yesterday that's on the site today, on jobs, on work, on the anxiety of not having a job and the anxiety of having a job. There's there's anxieties fraught with both, and I source the there's evidence. I use a lot of research studies, and but I also bring in and infuse the humor, and that's what makes it relatable for people, I think. And they're like, oh yeah, I feel that way, even when they don't realize they feel that way. And So that's what I'm doing. I'm writing another book called Maybe I'm Happy But Asymptomatic, which is purely nonfiction humor with self-help that you don't even know you're getting. So it's like putting whiskey in your medicine or honey for the kids, you know.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, so that's keeping me busy, and I do contract writing as well on the side, and but yeah, it's you know, as a writer, as a career, it's very interesting. As you probably know, it's not real lucrative. You have to have other things going on, and so I do as well. And then I
Yeah.
get to do these fun podcasts and be with people like you. So this is great. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
it's it's great. Before I get to you brought up so many different little things, but I have to say, people in relationships, it's the grass is always greener.
Ah,
There's always a
100%.
grass is always greener. People who are single want to be in a relationship. People in relationships either want a different relationship or a better relationship. There's always something. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's
there
the
just
bigger, better
is.
deal, they call it, the
Yes.
BBD,
Yeah.
or, you know, short attention span dating. I mean, we've literally made dating transactional, you know, with all these apps. And, you know, people have become commodities. We've commoditized dating.
Yeah, and it's just, but and you're talking about being a writer, and we talk about on the episode the how isolated everyone is. It's everybody is very isolated, and to get out of the isolation is huge. But there's also a term, I don't know if you used it on the episode or if I saw it in your writings, but anxiety. I had never heard that term before meeting you. That was a new
Yeah.
one for me. So can you talk about that for a second too?
Yeah, I don't know how it came to me. I mean, it's one letter off from anxiety, and it says it all, really. I mean,
Yeah.
it just came to me one day, and I wrote a piece about it. And really, the premise of the article was how anxiety for men presents differently than for other genders, and you know, it really does. Because first and foremost, men are very bad at identifying what's anxiety for us.
Yeah.
I remember being in college, and I worked at a tanning salon because that's where you met girls. Like, it was the ultimate place to meet girls, like tanorexics, I call them. They would come in, you know, oh, I'm so pale. I haven't been in 3 days. And I'm like, really? Because you're kind of a melanoma poster child. You know, it was crazy. But it was so fun working there. My guy friends
So
would come
funny
in.
looking at you. You're so white. You're like my
I
son,
know.
who's a redhead, and he's a white boy, like
Yeah, well, I used to be very dark, so now I'm
yeah.
like trying to reverse it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exfoliation and sunblock. But
I have an app with a camera thing that gives me a tan. Oh, look,
oh,
it's not on my hands, so that's funny.
no wonder you're tan.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, I need
I'm
that. I
not.
need a tan filter.
Yeah.
Um, so I forgot where I was going with this.
Sorry, you worked at a tanning salon. Anxiety.
Yeah,
So you could
probably.
meet,
Yeah, I see. This is what I do. It's just anxiety. This is manxiety. You know,
yeah.
I go. I have
Well,
so many thoughts, and they're taking me
oh,
everywhere.
on the podcast, you gave all these tools of the breathing and the,
Yeah, and you know, for men, oh, I know where I was going with this. So I remember going in one day for my shift, and the girl before my shift, Jolie, was working, and she was dating the college quarterback, and he was just a mountain of a man, and he was like laid out in the tanning bed and it wasn't on, and he it looked like he was sleeping, and I'm like, hey, what's up with your man? And she's like, oh, he's having an anxiety attack. And she's like rolling her eyes, you know, like, oh, he's so weak. And I was like, okay, first, that dude's not weak. Second, what's an anxiety attack? You know, like, and if it could bring this guy down, what would it do to me? And that's really where um just before I had some myself, but didn't know what it was.
yeah.
So, and I remember seeing him kind of in the struggle and not, you know, he was trying to just calm down
Mhm.
and lay in the tanning. I don't know how he ended up there. I don't know how you end up anywhere on your back in a tanning bed, but he, you know, he was a scary guy. He was a formidable guy, and so I thought, well, gosh, if it could happen to somebody like that, then you know, it could clearly happen to anybody. But men typically deny, and then from there we use distraction, and whether that be dating or alcohol or athleticism or whatever, could be. The last thing we do is generally seek out help for those feelings. And even myself, I remember when I did identify it, it wasn't me identifying it. I ended up in an ER thinking I was having a heart attack in my 20s. And I think I shared with you in Little League, they thought I was having asthma. I was a pitcher and I'd be on the mound and I couldn't get air. And they're like, oh, pull him out, give him an inhaler. But I was having anxiety attack. And this went on for years and years before I ended up in an ER. And I remember, they treated it like a heart attack. They gave me nitroglycerin under the tongue and, rolled out the EKG machine. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
I'm
gosh.
clearly dying. They're taking this seriously. So I guess I am dying. And I remember the ER doc coming in and just compassionately kind of saddling up next to me and saying, you're having an anxiety attack. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm having a heart attack. And you're going to treat it as such, please. And, it was anxiety. And I just couldn't believe it could be so dire. Like, I really
Yeah,
felt I was dying.
debilitating. Yeah, I'm not a football player. I'm a baseball player. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy. And that the amount of chest pain and the inability to breathe and the foreboding thoughts and end of times kind of scenario that it felt like. I couldn't believe she was telling me it wasn't, a certain death.
Yeah. I wonder if kids, since they seem to grow up knowing their feelings so much more than I know even to this day, I'll Google feelings chart and use it as a
Oh,
cheat sheet and be like, okay, that's what it is. Because we didn't grow up saying how we felt.
yeah,
And
we got the Wong Baker scale, and it was the
yeah.
smiley faces that went to frown, that
Yeah.
went to like, really sad. It's like point to the face that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like so, but my kids, I'm so impressed.
Because they
I'm
can tap into
you
that.
know, my daughter, I'll never forget when she said, "Can you pull over for a minute, mom? I'm just really overwhelmed with da, 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 da," and I was like, "Wow, check you out." And I get all puffed up like I have anything. I mean, I try to encourage that, but
Yeah.
I'm always just so impressed, and she'll be like they're always reprimanding me, but they're like, "There's a better way to say that." I'll go, "Oh, what is it?"
Well, we need to do that to
Teach me.
ourselves, right? We need to, and I talk about this in the book in Anxiety Hacks for an Uncertain World. I talk about, coddling your inner child, because you do have to talk to yourself as that, 6-year-old maybe. And, you don't have to do it out loud in public, but, think of yourself as that and show some self-compassion and some self-care, because chances are most other people aren't going to do it. And we need that. We need that. And think of yourself in those terms, because you and I grew up and it was like that. It was like, suck it up,
Oh,
walk it
yeah.
off, and boys don't cry, etc. um yeah, and it was detrimental, I think. I'm not sure if it did us any good or not. I got calluses,
I
so
no, I mean, affirmations are so huge. I talk about them a lot. I mean, affirmations, you feel like an SNL skit, and but they work. There's a reason that people talk about them. I just did a TikTok. I just learned how to do a TikTok. I was like, I had no idea I was interviewing such an influencer yesterday, and she said, "Oh, you just press the red button and this and that." So I talked about it. I don't care.
it's a Chinese
I have
spy tool,
0
TikTok.
followers, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's there's a as we get older, we kind of have a line we hit. It's almost like a impenetrable boundary of technology, where we're like, that's it. I'm not taking on any more. I'm not learning anything new. We do that with music. We do it with clothing. It's
Yeah,
common, and it's good for our brains to take on some of these other things. But TikTok,
yeah.
I struggle with as well, just
I
because, yeah,
it was just fun, but affirmations, I just think that they work, and, there's a reason for it. Let's talk about isolation. Do
yeah.
you have tips or tools for isolation? You are in a very isolated profession. I now work from home. Do you have tools for that?
Yeah, I one of the things I suggest and proselytize is a both a productivity and a pleasure goal for each day. And that's you can have more than one, but you have to have at least one. And generally, we have like 50 productivity goals and 0 pleasure goals, or maybe one. And maybe that one is I'm going to drink a bottle of wine and binge watch something tonight on Netflix. But it should be a healthy pleasure goal, and I talked to you about, the benefit of just walking for mental health. It's big. I mean, it'll shift your mood instantly. You walk out the door.
Mhm.
And so you have to commit to that, just like you would your productivity goals. You have due dates for your job. You have to have a due date for your pleasure goal, and it could be anything. But you do have to, it does have to be something you find pleasurable, and you have to make an effort, and you have to recommit to that every day. And I have to commit to that, to taking walks myself, to getting out. I mean, I work out. I built a home gym in my garage, and I have a spin bike. And I mean, the way I'm set up, I mean, I could never leave, right? It's like a bunker. I mean, we're all that way. We can DoorDash, we can order from Costco. Like, there's drones dropping stuff. There's like, it's really bad. Like,
Yeah.
and I recently moved into the place I'm in now, and I really like to know my neighbors. And I go outside, and it's like an old West town. Everybody just runs in and shutters the doors. And it's like, what happened? Like, what happened to people bringing a pie over when you move into a new place or something? And, it's not good that we're all turning this way. And, it's, we need it. It's for our mental health, for our physical health. We need interaction. We need friendships. There's study after study right now on the dire nature of loneliness, and yet we're becoming more compartmentalized in our homes. So the other day I was like, I have to get out, and it was raining, and I was like, I don't care. I'm committing to this, and I'm not going to ride my stupid bike in one place and watch my Apple iPad. So I ran 2,225 stairs. There's a place I go. It's got awesome views. And let me tell you, as soon as I got there, even on the drive there, my mood was shifted. And it was pouring rain. I didn't care. It felt fantastic because it was such a hard workout, and felt great, because I'm just taken back to that moment. We don't know when I was,
Yeah,
I'm like,
absolutely.
I'm going to do this a
Yeah.
lot. I'm going to come back a lot.
Yes.
And so, yeah. And so find that one thing. And if, your pleasure goal wasn't that pleasurable that day, then plug in another one, like,
Right.
or
Just keep
plug and
trying
play.
different things. Absolutely. Yeah. When we're done, that's my time to walk. It absolutely. And thank God it stopped raining. I mean,
Yeah.
I know
You're
we
in
need the rain.
SoCal. So
Yeah. So I can go outside again.
yeah, I mean, it got biblical, with this amount of rain we've had. It was like 6 weeks of rain. And I know this because the day I moved into where I'm at now, it was December 3rd, and it was pouring rain. And I think that was kind of the start of it. And it literally stopped 2 days ago. And where it was January 17th. Like, that's nuts. We don't get that kind of rain here. And, I'm just very worried that we were going to float away. So
I know.
yeah, the sun came out and my mood shifted. I'm sure yours did as well. Like,
Yes.
wow, what a difference, right? Just the sun.
Yeah, getting outside is absolutely huge. Okay, I have one more question,
Yeah.
that I was talking to somebody else that you had mentioned, and I want clarity. I wanna know how you said that there was AI therapy that was done,
Oh yeah.
and okay, how is that possible? Don't people have therapy, like we are face to face virtually right now? How was that possible that there was AI therapy and people didn't know? I understand they got upset when they found out, of course. So,
Yeah, chatbots. They were chatting. It wasn't face to face.
okay, okay, so that's
That's
how.
coming, I'm sure. Yeah. But this was, therapy can be via text, it could be via email, it could be
Okay, so
talk
that's how.
therapy. Yeah. And this was a company, and it's in the media right now. It's Coco, Koko. And
Mhm.
they had a chatbot doing empathetic therapy for people,
Right.
and they didn't tell them. And there's a lot of blowback. You can Google it. It did not go over well. Um, and it's funny you bring that up, because yesterday I went on openai.com and I was playing with it myself to think, well, how good is it at therapy? And I was pretty impressed,
Yeah, it is very. I have to say, we
Yeah.
talked about it on the episode. I was very impressed too. I wasn't impressed with what they did with the new laws that went into effect in California, my area of practice, but everything else I was very impressed
Yeah,
with.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're, the technology's way ahead of the legalities of around it. Like it's out of control. People are panicking and thinking we're all going to be
Oh,
on a
please. Everything. I mean, it's always like that with anything new.
yeah, like we're all going to be on a universal income and
Yeah.
out of work. But
It's not true. I
yeah,
mean, everything will, it all goes to a balance. It goes to extremes and then it balances out.
we'll get to a stasis, right? The
Yeah.
pendulum
Oh,
swinging wildly one way, and then it'll settle back. But it
yeah.
does have some great. I mean, it's so much fun if you
Yeah.
like.
It was, I obsessed last weekend. So I'm hoping like the obsessiveness is kind of measured and now I'll go back to work.
Yeah, yeah. It's like when Google came out and you were just like Googling everything and
Yeah.
everyone and
Yeah.
yourself, and now you're like on, AI chatbots doing or chat GPT doing the same thing. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
fun. It's a
Yeah.
novelty.
It was. It was very fun, and now I'm back to doing my own. Nothing replaces freehand writing anyway. It's journaling's
Yeah, or
important, and it's a good tool for anxiety. I will bring us back to our segue back to the topic.
well, I have to mention today I saw this robotic dog that can walk up walls like straight up, and people are like, "Okay, that's too much."
Okay, yeah.
Okay, back to
You're
anxiety.
hanging in different crowds of me. I did not see that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, that is. Oh, this is great. So we'll have to do this again.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, this is great live streaming. Everyone has to listen to the episode and you have to read Jon Patrick Hatcher's book and
Thank you.
his articles and all of it because it's definitely it's worthwhile and you get so many different tools in each chapter. So, yay.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of nuggets to take away. So, if anybody's going to give me their time and dedicate that to me, they're going to have some takeaways. So, um, there's always a walk away gift for people.
Yeah, and you don't have any like homework or workbooks or anything
No
else. It's
way.
all right there in the book.
I wouldn't do that to anybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lauren. Such a
Yeah, this is
pleasure.
great.